Hello, my name is David Gagnon. I'm the Executive Director of the Maria Mitchell Association, and really excited to have a little time here to talk to Jason Finger. And she's our Deputy Director and Curator at the museum. She's been actually with the Maria Mitchell Association, I just learned this morning, since she was 12 years old. So probably the foremost authority on Maria Mitchell. So Jason, what's the big deal about 2018?
2018 is Mariah's 200th birthday. She was born on August 1st, 1818, and she is America's first woman astronomer. And she was born and raised on Nantucket as a Quaker. And the Maria Mitchell Association this year is having a lot of events that surround the 200th birthday.
So, born in 1818, my God, what was it like in 1818?
In 1818, Nantucket was the whaling capital of the world. It was heavily populated by Quakers. Not everyone on Nantucket was a Quaker, but it very much ruled how everyone lived their lives here. And Maria grew up in an environment in which women were working outside the home, and they had roles within the community that women didn't find elsewhere, and there were a lot of women working. And Maria would go on to be the first librarian at the Athenaeum, and she was also an astronomer. She worked with her father, who was an astronomer and a school teacher as well, and she sort of became his assistant. And so she aided him in his work with the U.S. Coast Survey. And then, as she did every clear night, and he did every clear night, on October 1st, 1847, she was observing the heavens, as she always did, and she discovered a comet.
Yeah.
And that is really what launched her onto the world stage, because it brought attention to the work that she was doing. And in a time when women were really relegated to the sphere of domesticity, it showed that what she was doing was true and right, and that she was an astronomer, and she had that mathematical ability. And it really proved that she could do what she had been doing. And so then she went on to become the first professor at Vassar College when it opened in 1865. She was one of the founders of the Association for the Advancement of Women and a women's group called Sorosis. And she traveled with her students to view solar eclipses. She traveled to Europe twice in her lifetime.
Wait a minute. So when was this? How far did she travel? I mean, the solar eclipse, was it on Nantucket or?
Well, she viewed a solar eclipse. Her first solar eclipse was in 1831. She was 12 and a half, and she viewed that with her father from the front sitting room of the Mitchell House at 1 Vestal Street. And she clocked the seconds of it.
Yeah.
You're basically calling out the seconds as they go by as the person's observing the eclipse.
Yeah.
The second one she observed was in Colorado with her students. So they traveled by train and by stage and open wagon, which was really unheard of for women to do that. And she kind of...
So this wasn't a group of men and women. She wasn't part of a bigger...
No, there was a lot of astronomers going out to observe it, but her group of women, which actually included her sister Phoebe, was the only group of women, just women, without any men in the group.
Gosh.
And they were also the first group of women to view a solar eclipse that way and to be funded by the U.S. federal government. They got, it doesn't sound like much today, they had $100 as a grant, and there was only about, I think, $5,000 that was handed out in total. So that was actually a large chunk of money to help pay for the cost of traveling out there. And they observed the eclipse. And she stayed out there for a little while, and she did a couple of different lectures.
Yeah.
And then she'd do another trip to Iowa to view a solar eclipse with her students. And all the while, the same way, train, open wagons. But doing this, they kind of picked up students. Most of them were recently former students, but picked them up as they kind of traveled across the United States. But this was really unheard of for women to be doing this. But then also all these women to gather together and to have no man there to make sure they were observing properly or what have you.
How crazy. So I heard also that on Nantucket, women were given the right to use a power of attorney. And can you just talk about? I think that's so fascinating.
So Nantucket women, because not every man was away at sea, but a large chunk of men were away at sea, whether it be whaling or fishing for a period of time or coastal schooners. But they were given, women on Nantucket were given the precursor to today's power of attorney. It was called the Mariner's Power of Attorney, and they were the first women in the country to have that. And a man who was going to sea could give his wife, his sweetheart, his fiance, his sister, a really close friend who happened to be a female, control as you would in a power of attorney. And so Nantucket women had that right with that power of attorney to oversee all of the gentleman's business affairs, real estate affairs, family affairs, anything like that while they were away. And Nantucket women also just in general, whether their husbands were home or away, just did that. They ran businesses. They opened businesses to make sure that they were taking care of their families while their husbands were away. If their husband didn't come back, if they were widowed, they were going to be able to provide for their family by putting money aside.
Right.
So it was a very unique environment. So for Mariah to kind of become America's first woman astronomer is incredibly special. But she would also say, but there were other women who were around me who were working.
Yeah. And I know we've had discussions about this, but in terms of what Mariah would feel was the sort of one of the more important things that she did in her lifetime, what she would feel really good about. Wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
I think probably the most important to her was education, women in education, and women in the sciences, and that was something she was very focused on. Obviously, with teaching at Vassar, but also in the founding of the Association for the Advancement of Women, and for it she founded the Science Committee, which she chaired for her entire life. And she always said to her students, we are women studying together. She believed in learning by doing, hands-on learning, which was something that was very much a Nantucket kind of Quaker influence that happened in her father's schools and in other island schools that she went to. And that's something that the Mariah Mitchell Association firmly believes, and that's foundation of our mission.
Sure.
But she didn't like to lecture. She wanted them to work together, which is kind of what going out west to view these eclipses was all about. It was learning by doing, being there in the actual moment and observing an eclipse, or observing the transit of Venus, or that sort of thing.
Well, the other thing that's striking to me, and you really have to sort of step back in time, and that's, of course, something we can do by going and visiting the Mitchell House. Anybody that comes onto Nantucket, throughout the summer it's open, and you can talk a little bit more about that. But I think one of the things that's amazing to me, she did all of these things. She got an award from the King of Denmark. She for discovery of a comet, but she also was involved with all these other organizations. And this is no computers, no internet. You're out on Nantucket or in other places, pretty remote. So everything's got to be done by mail. Everything's a lot slower. So it's very surprising to hear she did all these amazing things during a time when communication was quite rudimentary.
And she was a computer. She was a computer for the U.S. Nautical Almanac, so she was computing the ephemeris of Venus. So she was doing all the mathematical calculations that today a computer would do. Interestingly, it took her hours and hours and hours to figure out. But she was a first in many, from being the first woman member of the Association for the Advancement of Women, the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, working for the U.S. Nautical Almanac. She was first, but she was also very kind of quiet about it. She was very modest, and she didn't see herself as first. She was just doing what she wanted to do and what she knew how to do, and doing her work.
Yeah. She was very, very impressive. Every day I learned something new. So it's
she's an incredible individual.
Yeah, she really was. So.
But let's talk about 200th birthday.
200th birthday.
Yes, what we're doing
That's
for the 200th
year,
birthday.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
We're really, really excited, as you know, Jason, because you've been working on this as much as anybody else and getting prepared for this year, 2018, the 200th birthday anniversary of Mariah Mitchell. The birthday itself is, as you know, on August 1st. We're really excited about that. For those of you who have participated in the past, it's a great birthday celebration on Vestal Street. This year we're going to, ratchet it up a bit. We're going to have a parade that's going to start at the Athenaeum and make its way up to Vestal Street. So that should be a lot of fun. We have all these great events this year. Right now we're doing a Planet program. Dr. Regina Jorgensen is running that every Monday night throughout the month here in the springtime. We're excited about that. We've got a great event planned. Our partners at Cisco Brewers have encouraged us to have a family day there. So really going to be fun from 12 to 2 o'clock in June, first weekend in June after Fagawi. And it's just going to be a fun place. If any of you have participated, we've had a lot of families that participated in the Science Festival in March at the high school. It's going to be sort of a mini version of that. So we'll encourage people to come. Keep your eye out. for the Comet Chaser, which will be a specialty drink that's actually a fundraiser for Maria Mitchell Association this summer, and that'll be at a lot of the local restaurants and bars this summer. We're really fun. We had really had fun working with Cisco Brewers on that. We've got lots of other events planned throughout the summer. Of course, we'll have the aquarium open and ready to go for visitors. We'll do the Natural Science Museum. The Mitchell House will be open. So one of the highlights for many people is actually coming out to the Wines Observatory. It's on Monday and Wednesday nights from 9 to 10:30. It's on Milk Street. You don't need to make a reservation. And the thing that I hear from people all the time is actually one of my favorite things to do is stand at the ladder when people are climbing up those stairs and looking into the oculus and see the expression on their face when they see the rings of Saturn, for instance. It's really, for many people, sort of a pivotal moment in their, it's something they'll carry probably for the rest of their lives. And we're so happy to be part of that experience for people. So that's really exciting. Over the summer, of course, I mentioned the aquarium. The other thing is we have a science speaker series that happens on Wednesday nights. That's throughout the summer, and we have some special speakers as well this summer. Actually, Jason, why don't you jump in on that and mention those speakers?
Okay. So we have 3 special speakers who I'm really excited about. The first will be jointly hosted with the Athenaeum, and that's David Barron, who wrote American Eclipse. It came out last year, just in time for the eclipse, which seems so long ago. And he featured about 5 astronomers in his book, and Mariah was the only woman who he featured. There's a large portion about Mariah and her travels for the Colorado eclipse. And then in July, co-hosted with the NHA at the Whaling Museum, will be Davis Obel, who's written Longitude and Galileo's Daughter, but her latest book is The Glass Universe, which is all about the women star catalogers at Harvard that Mariah did have a little bit of influence in as Mariah was towards the end of her life. And that started in the late 19th century, and she'll be coming in talking about that. And what's really fun, too, with that is that we'll be doing a Mariah Mitchell exhibit to open in about 2 weeks, in end of April, with the NHA, and so that'll be upstairs. So we'll have David downstairs, and we'll have a reception after that. And then back at the Athenaeum at the end of August, I believe it's August 22nd, at the Athenaeum will be J. Drew Lanham, and he's an ornithologist. He's a poet and a writer. He just wrote a book that came out about a year ago called The Home Place, and it talks about his experiences growing up in South Carolina, but also being one of very few African-American men who's an ornithologist, and the kind of the things he faces in that area. So I think it's kind of nice way of, it touches on Mariah in different ways between Dava and J. Drew Lanham and David Barron. So it'll be a really exciting program to have them with us.
That's great. Yeah, what I'm really excited about this year is we have partnered with other organizations like the NHA, the Artists Association of Nantucket. We're doing a program on upsculpting and wine, so that should be a lot of fun. We'll see how those turn out. So I think that, and also, of course, the Athenaeum, where we're going to be doing some of the presentations. So, and to me, that sort of also embodies the spirit of Maria Mitchell and the association, working together. We're on a small island out in the middle of the ocean here, right? We have to pool resources, and I think that's fun. So I don't want to forget to mention, because one of my absolute favorite events of the year is the release day at the aquarium. It happens the last weekend of the summer. And it's a time when all these fish who have given their time and energy to us to be able to observe them up close and play with them and interact with them, it's when they go back into the ocean. And it's a fantastic day. We usually get 400 people or so that come out. The little kids have their buckets with them, and they get to take a fish or a snail or a clam, and they get to bring it out to the ocean and release it. And it's a really nice feeling. I suspect that very, very few aquariums or any place where we have live creatures that actually get to do that releasing. So it's a really unique experience. I encourage people who are here to be there for that. So we've also extended our work into the fall in a much bigger way. We have an event happens that the Pacific National Bank building at the top of Main Street is 200 years old, and they want to celebrate that, and they've asked us to celebrate with them because of the birthday, and so we will be with them for that evening on October 1st to celebrate the anniversary. It's and I haven't done the math yet, but since Mariah Mitchell spotted the comet, so
yep.
October 1st. So that's going to be a nice reception that we'll have up there to celebrate that. And then, of course, you've been working very hard, and the staff has been working hard in the Mariah Mitchell Women in Science Symposium, and I'll let you touch base on that because I'm so excited about that. It's a major event that we're going to hold, and it's going to be off-island so that we can have access to as many people as possible. But why don't you give us a little breakdown of that?
That's going to be October 5th and 6th in the Boston area. It's actually going to be in Wellesley, Mass. at Babson College, their executive conference center. And we're working Dava Sobel. She's coming back to speak for that.
Yeah, right.
And Jill Tarter, who was the former head of SETI, but most people will know her as the character in Carl Sagan's Contact.
Yeah.
And Meg Urey and a whole group of amazing women who will be keynotes and panelists to come together for the Mariah Mitchell Women in Science Symposium, which is all about inspiring and engaging and keeping girls and women in the STEM fields. And it's meant to be in the spirit of Mariah, very much learning by doing, hands-on, coming up with real-world solutions for women and who come to the conference and men who come to the conference to take back into the workplace. We'd love to have Island students. We have a couple of Island partners who are sponsors of this, and as well as other sponsors, several colleges. So hopefully it's something that will continue to happen going forward, maybe every 2 years or so. And at it, we're hoping to bring back the Mariah Mitchell Women in Science Award that the MMA used to have. So it's really exciting. We're still working on it really hard, but I'm finally excited to see that it's finally coming to fruition after a lot of years of thinking about it. So, and I think Mariah would appreciate it and enjoy it.
Yeah. So I just want to mention one more thing that really embodies the organization, and that's our internship program. We have around 27 college-age interns that work with us. They're involved with astronomy, running the aquarium, the Natural History Museum. They're involved with our collections. One of them works for you at the Mitchell House. And that's a program that we actually sort of start in December and January. Some people ask me, what are you doing in the winter? And it's a very, very busy time for us here. It's planning for the summer. So you can imagine hiring 27 new people every year. These are great, great interns. And then they, in fact, then work with on-island interns or kids that come in, middle school, high school kids that are here for the summer or part of the summer. They'll work with them. So, out of those 27, we probably get up to over 100 interns and volunteers that are integral. And honestly, if we didn't have them, we wouldn't be able to run the operation in the summertime. So we're really proud of that program. It's not just a job. It sounds like a major. It's not just a job. It truly is an adventure and an amazing learning experience for these interns, from middle school all the way through college.
I started volunteering when I was 12.
That's right, 12 years old. That is
Look where it brought me to.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, there are a lot of island kids involved.
So. And one of the things that the interns do, a big part of what they, at least half of them do, is run our summer camp, our summer programs, and those are all those camps that many of the people on island and visitors have gone through with their kids. We'll be doing that again this summer. It's always different. It's always exciting, and we're excited to have everybody involved. It's going to be a great summer.
No, it will be. And I think for the 200th birthday, if there's people out there who still have never been to the Mitchell House or the aquarium or the Loynes Observatory, this is a day where you try and find a day, even if it's that you try and go to everything in that day, and or make an attempt to go to everything at least during the summer. So if you haven't been to the aquarium in 15 years, go to the aquarium, come to the Mitchell House. Go to the Vestal Street Observatory and top it off with an evening at Loynes. I think then you get the full feel of who Mariah was too, because she was a naturalist too, not just an astronomer, and that shows you why we have the different departments that we
That's
do
exactly
at
right. That's the full Nantucket experience. So,
land, sea, sky.
there we go. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
okay.